Hey guys, Jason Timothy here, musicsoftwaretraining.com, and I'm back for another music production video. And today I'm going to get into how you could become a more efficient music producer. And I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm actually going to just share my podcast with you on this subject because I think that the podcast itself is really good, really worth listening to, and I prefer the way that that's organized. But basically what I'm going to get into is this concept that I actually learned from a business coach. And there's three aspects to running a business. And you could actually apply these creatively as well. And that's what I'm going to get into in the podcast. It's going to fall into three different categories. And that is the work, the business, and the busy. All right? So that's what we're going to get into in this podcast. I guarantee if you listen through this, you're really going to get some things that you can apply right away. In fact, you could apply this stuff right after you listen to this podcast. So check it out, and I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll speak to you guys really soon. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Ableton and Music Habits Podcast. Actionable music production tips to take your music to the next level. And now, your host, Jason Timothy.
Hey guys, today I wanted to speak about how you can become a more efficient producer. And I've written kind of a long blog on this, so I'm going to go through this and kind of just read through this. And I think that the way it was put together will be really helpful. So here we go. So when it comes to music production, many producers find themselves stuck, seemingly doing tons of work towards their goals, and yet find they aren't any closer to reaching those goals. And whether you want to be a famous DJ or just get your first few tracks signed to a label and released, there seems to be something always in the way. So I'm going to assert that it's your focus and your chosen actions that may seem to be productive, but ultimately aren't. As a music producer, if you're like most, your goal is probably to release more quality music and build your fan base, right? Would you agree that any activities that aren't getting you one result or the other is largely a waste of your time and energy? If so, then the million-dollar question is, why do you continue to do those things? A fair response is that you simply never looked at each action you were taking and become aware of which were your most productive and which were your least productive actions. So cleaning up your actions is much like cleaning up your house. If you're going through your stuff, each item you come across would fit in one of three categories. Number one, the keep and organize category. Number two, the store or give away category. And number three, trash. All right? So using the same approach, we need to kind of organize our actions towards making music. And I came across a concept that I actually learned from a business coach. And so it applies mostly to business, but we can turn this around to make this work for our music goals as well. So here's three things that we tend to do when it comes to our music that we're not really aware of. And these words are going to come across kind of businessy, but then I'll relate it over to music. And I think you'll be able to put this to use in a really useful way. So number one, we have the work. Number two, we have the business. And number three, we have the busy, okay? So if you look at our music career as a business, we can much more easily identify the useful from the not so useful. So let's define these three categories. So we have the work, and these are the things you have to do as an artist, first and foremost, to have anything else you do make sense. So this is your art, this is your product, this is finishing your songs. If you don't finish anything, you don't have a product, right? Now the business, this is what you do with the work that ensures your art finds people who need to hear it. It also involves developing your skills needed to consistently improve and do your work efficiently. And then finally, we have the busy, and this is where we spend most of our time usually, and it has a very low, if any, returns on your investment of time and energy. And this is where most people get stuck and wonder why they're just spinning their wheels. If you want to be a more successful artist, you need to identify each action you make towards your goals. So let's identify the activities that you are either moving yourself forward or keeping yourself stuck with. So the busy, or what I like to call the bullshit, would be any of the following actions that we get lost on. And this would include scouring, posting, and debating in groups and forums about music. This is a huge waste of time, usually spent with others who aren't reaching their goals. There are a number of intelligent people in these groups who are an endless stream of information, but they generally just attempt to stroke their egos by getting their opinions across. This often also coincides with slagging off other artists, tools, or approaches. Bottom line is, who cares what the best compressor is if you don't know why, when, and how to use a compressor in the first place? So let me save you a lot of time. The best compressor is the one that you know how to use front and back and gets the job done quickly and easily. Yes, there are certainly some great free and paid tools, but honestly, I've seen great producers run circles around producers who have all the expensive plugins. Those who tend to have all the plugins tend to be collectors because they're afraid of being judged for using the wrong tool and spend too much time comparing plugins instead of learning one tool really well and getting on to actually making music. So you want to avoid this addiction at all costs. Number two that's involved with the busy is waiting for reactions. This is just a sinister habit because it disguises itself as something healthy and necessary, and that's just rarely the case. This is very similar to making a post on social media and then checking your notifications every 5 minutes. This is an enormous waste of time, and it's a sign that you have no confidence in your own unique skills in art. It's really sad to see people who finish something and then stop their production cold to wait for someone to get back to them, or even worse, to do when you're in the middle of a song. The fact is, if you're stuck, it is you who needs to get yourself unstuck. If you want a useful opinion on your music, hire a coach who will give you constructive advice while holding you accountable to continuing to do the work, even if it feels uncomfortable. Anything less is kind of a crutch to your development and confidence as an artist. Doesn't mean you can't ask a friend that you trust what they think, but oftentimes they're just not going to be there when you need them to, and you're going to end up slowing your process down waiting for a reaction. If you can stop both of these busy habits and sit with your little artistic discomfort, you'll get miles ahead of your competition really quickly. So next we get into the business. And the business is what you do that helps you ensure that the work you're doing actually matters. If someone drops a mixtape in the forest, does it make a sound? The answer is going to be no. No, it really doesn't. It's important to distinguish whether doing the business is the most effective use of your time at a given moment. You always want to keep in mind that the business is fueled by the work. If you aren't doing enough of the work, the business just becomes the busy, all right? With this in mind, these are actions that the business would include. 1, social media posts. In this day and age, if your fan base is the pancake, then your social media activity is the batter. It's the lifeblood that keeps you and your art in front of people who need to hear it. Unless you have $1 million promotional team, you can't really avoid this part of the process if you want to reach your goals. For me, this very post you are reading is me doing the business. Obviously, this should be aligned with your personality and shouldn't feel like work you hate, or you'll never do it. This can be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or SoundCloud, among a number of other places. To avoid overload and wasting your time that you need most for doing the work, I would focus on just 2 platforms for right now. And you can choose whichever platforms work best for you. For me, I usually go with Facebook and Instagram. I also happen to have my YouTube as well, but Facebook and Instagram is kind of where I spend most of my time. You should be sharing your music and giving teasers and letting your fans know when and where your stuff's going to be available. You should also be sharing pictures, thoughts, and behind-the-scenes videos that show people your personality. You probably don't want to share on your artist page the same way you share on your personal page because your artist page is more of a brand. If your artist persona is your Superman or Catwoman, you get to decide how much of Clark Kent you want to share on your artist page. For For example, I have my minimal techno persona, Jason Timothy, and I also have my dark wave, kind of gothish persona, Shadows. Although both of these artistic ventures are aspects of my total personality, I separate the two in order to avoid confusing people. The bottom line is to stay consistent to your artistic vision when posting. I know several artists who avoid showing their face on their artist page. It's kind of that mysterious aesthetic they're going for. And when they do show their face, it's kind of like a little treat, something special. You can do the same by only occasionally showing a more personal side. Number 2 would be socializing, connecting, and promoting. Yes, socializing and partying can be an important part of your business. Making, nurturing, and keeping your connections is definitely part of the music game. People should see you out, and promoters should see you supporting. I mean, obviously, at the time of this post, we're going through the COVID issue, and that's keeping us from really being able to connect with each other. But you want to keep this all in mind, especially the shows that you're not playing. Those are the places that you really need to be to show promoters and people that you're really supportive of the whole scene and not just supporting yourself. Nobody's going to want to book someone locally who doesn't support their scene, and you really don't want to be that guy. On the other hand, you've got to do work. You don't have time to go to every after party, and you don't need to be the last man standing at every event. Although the lifestyle can seem like the work, it could be a seductive mistress who will kill all your dreams if you're not careful. So have the integrity to know whether your socializing is the business or just the busy. And just recognizing that will actually really help you to shift into the right sorts of habits. There's no real rule to connecting and promoting except to say that on occasion, you should be reminding people of the work you're currently up to. If you don't have anything that you're currently up to share, you should probably be doing less socializing and more of the work. Number 3 is training, coaching, and practice. This is another important aspect of the business in that if you're not practicing and improving your skills, not much engaging art is going to come out of you consistently. Now, this can be a tricky subject because there's a fine line between learning as a way to move yourself forward and learning as a form of distraction and procrastination. Like I always say, information rarely leads to transformation. This is why it's usually important to work with someone who's done what you're trying to do before and help you avoid the pitfalls, not only with music production, but with all your habits around that. Many who aren't reaching their goals are most likely draining their creative energy with menial tasks and not being guided and held accountable. Training, coaching, and practice might be your surest way to ensure that your time doing the work is consistently effective. Just understand that this is not the work, this is the business. So now let's get to the work. The work is actually sitting down and moving your song forward. Nothing else matters if you aren't finishing songs. All the socializing, promoting, and social media posts are completely worthless if you aren't doing the work and finishing the music that you start consistently. The work is not opening your DAW and sitting there listening to a loop for an hour. The work is not watching YouTube videos. And the work is not getting someone's opinion on something. The work is the work. If you aren't at least 1% further than you were when you sat down to make music, you aren't doing the work. Recognize this and stop the pattern. It's your biggest time and energy suck. I'd say 80% of your time should be related to doing the work. And only about 20% should be the business. And don't waste your time with the busy, as you'll never be proud of what that accomplishes. So I hope this has given you some clarity and that you're able to apply this in your life like right now. So with that, I'll let you guys go and have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you guys real soon. Take care and happy music making. Hey guys, thanks again for listening. And if you like this type of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell and set it to all posts. Don't forget that you can read my best-selling book, The Mental Game of Electronic Music Production, for free by going to musicsoftwaretraining.com/thementalgame. You'll also get my song recovery kit and my 101 Ableton tips video totally free. If you'd like to connect with me more directly to see how I might be able to help you personally, you can schedule a free 15-minute session with me by going to musicsoftwaretraining.com/application and answering a few quick questions. Happy music making, and I'll speak to you real soon.